That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, so before we get into the video, let's address the elephant in the room. And that is, I told y'all to sell A.J. Dillon at the beginning of this offseason. And no, this is not me just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The reason we told y'all to sell A.J. Dillon is because at the time, that was when everybody was just assuming that Aaron Jones was going to be out of Green Bay. And I thought that there was a damn good chance that was going to happen, but we understood that it was not a guarantee. So when A.J. Dillon had his price go to a first and second round rookie pick, we were screaming, sell, sell, sell. After last offseason, we were drafting A.J. Dillon in the late second, early third of our Superflex rookie drafts in almost every single Flock Patreon league. Then we went out ourselves, sold him for a first and second round pick in a few spots. I was telling y'all to do the same. Well, now his price has collapsed back to what it almost was before. And this is hilarious. I mean, now is the time to buy back in. I mean, we've had a crazy ride with A.J. Dillon. I mean, a player that we really haven't even been profitable for with his on the field play, more so just because you're getting the timing right when you're buying and selling Dillon. So maybe we're getting a little too cute here, but I think right now when he is going for a late second round rookie pick, I mean, this price, I am all in on A.J. Dillon. I think he has league-breaking upside, and of course, we're going to get into that this video. But please, guys, go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It really does help us out a lot. And also, over there on Patreon, we hit our goal of 400 Patreon supporters. So we're doing a $500 giveaway. Guys, go to our most recent post. If you are supporting the show on Patreon, comment your name under the $500 giveaway. And then we're going to be giving away the spot into that league that has a $6,000 pot because it's a 12-team league with 12 spots paying $500. I am paying one of the spots for my own team. I'm paying a spot for one of y'all as well to get in that league for free and have your shot at taking down that $6,000 pot. But anyway, let's dive into A.J. Dillon here, a running back that was taken at the very end of the second round last year. And I mean, this is something that I really want to point out with A.J. Dillon if we were going to be talking about his upcoming season's projection. I mean, what you're going to be expecting on a per-touch basis with his actual game plan in the Green Bay Packers organization. What you really want to focus in on is the investment that they have into A.J. Dillon. I mean, they spent the 30th pick in the second round on Dillon. I mean, this is only 10 picks behind where Cam Akers went. This is only 7 picks behind where J.K. Dobbins went. So almost identical investment into A.J. Dillon, J.K. Dobbins, and Cam Akers. And obviously, these players are seen on just complete opposite ends of the spectrum in Dynasty value. Now, they should be, but I really want everybody to understand what you're finding with A.J. Dillon and the investment the Green Bay Packers made. And with A.J. Dillon, I mean, obviously, everybody knows this. But I mean, the man is a freak. The man is 6 foot, 247 pounds. And it's not like he's Eddie Lacy, 247 pounds. I mean, no, it's like he is Mr. Olympia, 247 pounds. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody has seen the picture of him with his just massive, massive, massive thighs. I mean, a player that's only 23 years old. Now, I will say, if we were going through the prospect profile for A.J. Dillon, the one thing that he did lack is he only had a 6.5% team college target share, which does not necessarily bode well for what you're expecting his use in the receiving game in the NFL. But that's not why we're drafting him, because obviously Aaron Jones is going to be the running back getting the targets out of the backfield. But A.J. Dillon's 6.5% college target share is decent enough where he's not going to be a great receiving running back, but he's not going to be a complete liability in that game. By no means is he a Sony Michel, Damian Harris type player. And also, this is someone that, despite being 6 foot, 247 pounds, has great speed. He ran a 4.53 40-yard dash. And I know everybody wants to compare him to Derrick Henry. People hate to hear the comparison, but I mean, it is startling, the similarity between these two running backs. Because here, Derrick Henry ran a 4.54 40-yard dash, almost identical, a tiny bit slower to A.J. Dillon, but pretty much the exact same. And he's 247 pounds, just like A.J. Dillon. Now, the difference is, I mean, Dillon's BMI is significantly higher, as A.J. Dillon is standing at 6'0", and Derrick Henry is 6'3". So you actually have A.J. Dillon as the bigger running back between the two. You actually have technically, A.J. Dillon as the faster running back, but they're almost identical there. But the point is, A.J. Dillon has that exact same frame of a Derrick Henry. He has the same athletic profile. And now you're getting him for a late second round pick. And what I really want to dive into is the fact that A.J. Dillon is not going to be just a handcuffed running back. While you can say that he does have the elite upside where if Aaron Jones did get injured, all of a sudden you could see A.J. Dillon getting usage on all 3 downs. Because, I mean, going through his college career at Boston College, I mean, this is someone that throughout his entire career, so keep in mind, at 18, 19, and 20 years old, this is a player that averaged 24 rushing attempts a game, that averaged 125 rushing yards a game, over a touchdown a game as well. And that's including his true freshman season. That's including his sophomore year. That's including his junior year. So I really want to point that out with A.J. Dillon, that this is a player that was a dominant 3-down running back every single year in college. Now, he really didn't get the usage in the receiving game until 2019, until his final season in college. But there, he had a little over 1 reception a game, had 16 receiving yards a game. So like I said, I mean, you're not getting excited about him translating that skill set into the NFL, but it's not going to be Sony Michel level type bad. And what we already saw with A.J. Dillon is the fact that he can go into the NFL and he can dominate. Let's just say you have A.J. Dillon as the starting running back for the Green Bay Packers. Anything happens to Aaron Jones, we have a game that we can actually look at where A.J. Dillon got over 20 touches in his rookie season. Now, I will say something that's really funny is Aaron Jones had 12 touches in this game. I mean, there was no Jamal Williams. Aaron Jones had 12 touches. This is when Aaron Jones was kind of dealing with that injury. They completely crushed Tennessee. So there was really no reason for Aaron Jones to go out there and have a massive workload. But anyway, A.J. Dillon here, 21 carries, 129 total yards, 2 touchdowns, and a reception to go along with it. So we have seen the best case scenario for A.J. Dillon. We have seen that this running back can be a guy getting over 20 rushing attempts a game, over 100 total yards a game, and obviously getting that goal line usage in the case where he is given that role. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to project that right away. Obviously, that's why people are kind of trading away 1st and 2nd round picks at the beginning of this offseason, thinking that was going to be every single game for A.J. Dillon. But I'm looking at this as a situation where Dillon is very similar to what you have with Latavius Murray. He's very similar to what you have with Jamal Williams, where this is a player that I think is also going to have usage on a week-to-week basis, even when Aaron Jones is healthy. Now, there are a couple reasons behind this. I mean, you look at the depth chart for the Green Bay Packers right now, and you see that Aaron Jones obviously on the top. Then you have A.J. Dillon, and the third running back here is literally non-existent. I mean, maybe you make the argument it's Dexter Williams. It really doesn't matter who you're arguing at all. I mean, they're pretty much all just bums. So really, it's just Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon all in this backfield. And you look at this team being reluctant to give Aaron Jones a full workload through his NFL career so far. And the best thing to look at is the fact that Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones were drafted in the same draft classes in 2017. So you look at the years that you've had, 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020, and the difference with how this Green Bay Packers team used both running backs. And with Jamal Williams actually averaged almost 10.5 touches through his start in Green Bay. And I mean, obviously, you weren't starting him in fantasy because we've talked before that raw touches aren't nearly as important for fantasy as just having the most valuable touches and receptions and usage at the goal line. And that's what Aaron Jones had. I mean, Aaron Jones not necessarily getting a massive workload compared to Jamal Williams. He only averages about 4 touches more a game. But the difference is Aaron Jones, not only is he a better running back, yes, he's a better running back, but also he is getting all the valuable touches in the offense. He is getting the usage at the goal line. He is leading the NFL in rushing touchdowns. He is going through and also getting every single target out of the backfield. But now we look at A.J. Dillon in this situation, and I think it is a clear picture of what we should be expecting for this team this upcoming season. I think you should be expecting A.J. Dillon to be going through and picking up that same workload of 10 touches a game that you had from Jamal Williams. And while Jamal Williams wasn't necessarily useful in fantasy, given the fact that he didn't get the valuable touches in the offense, there is a path. There's a very easy thing to see for A.J. Dillon to actually hit. And that is A.J. Dillon getting the usage at the goal line. Because we have already said A.J. Dillon, from a BMI standpoint, is a bigger running back than Derrick Henry. So having that small piece of knowledge, I mean, who would you be putting at the goal line? Would you be putting Aaron Jones? Aaron Jones, a fantastic running back. I mean, I've talked to Aaron Jones on FaceTime. I know people who went to high school with Aaron Jones. I love Aaron Jones. But I'm saying A.J. Dillon is that monstrous human. I think if you need a goal line push, A.J. Dillon is actually going to be the guy that comes into the game when they're within the 5-yard line. And that's why A.J. Dillon himself could be more than just a handcuff running back. He could be more than just a Tony Pollard. He could be more than just a guy like Alexander Madison. This is someone that if you're in a pinch, you could throw him in at running back 2, hoping that he comes away with a rushing touchdown. And at that point, you get that hit. And we have already talked about A.J. Dillon having that elite ceiling if you did have an injury to Aaron Jones, because Dillon would be really the only player on this team. Maybe Dexter Williams comes in and gets targets in this offense, but obviously A.J. Dillon would be getting every single carry. So A.J. Dillon is essentially Tony Pollard, slightly cheaper. The difference is A.J. Dillon, only on the second year of his own NFL rookie contract, has more team investment, and you're also finding the fact that he's going to have a weekly role in his NFL offense already, even without an injury to the starter ahead of him. Now, another thing I want to look at is the fact that Aaron Jones did sign that extension. And I know a lot of people want to say, but Mason, the extension is front-loaded. And yes, of course, every running back contract is front-loaded. That's what you're going to find across the entire NFL. Look at Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry only has guaranteed money this upcoming season. I mean, that's how teams are going to structure deals. It makes a lot of sense. You don't want to be locked in to a running back like Ezekiel Elliott and just paying him way too much money when he's not worth it. But here, Aaron Jones, if we look at it through a macro sense, he is locked into this team through 2022. So you can expect Aaron Jones, with the guaranteed money he has, to be the starting running back this season, the starting running back next season as well. But if we were talking 3 years from now, going into his age 29 season for Aaron Jones, he's going to have a $20 million cap hit, and only $6.5 million of that is going to be against the dead cap. So we would be looking at a situation where the Green Bay Packers could reasonably decide to move on from Aaron Jones, given they could save $13.5 million. And we know that running backs, by the time they get to 29, usually they aren't necessarily the same players they are at 25, 26. So it's completely possible that A.J. Dillon just gets a starting role, but it's going to be until 2023. It's going to be a very long time. I mean, the reason you're going and targeting A.J. Dillon is he's a running back that if you need him in a pinch, you can throw him into your running back 2 spot, hoping he comes away with a rushing touchdown. But he has that elite ceiling as an elite handcuff running back in fantasy, running behind one of the best offensive lines in football. So I think he's essentially a better Tony Pollard that's going to be in the same situation for the next 3 years. And that's why he is one of the best ways you can spend a second-round rookie pick. Now, let's go over to another running back that, I told y'all to sell during the middle of last season. Let's talk about Darrell Henderson here. So Darrell Henderson, I know we have a lot of new people playing Dynasty this offseason, but it was really funny. Back in that 2019 NFL draft class, you actually had a big tier fall off after you had the N'Keal Harry, the David Montgomery, the Josh Jacobs, and the Miles Sanders of that class. And all of a sudden, Darrell Henderson in some rookie drafts was sneaking his way up to the 105. This is a player that the hype was insane, given the fact that Todd Gurley had the reports that he had arthritis in his knee. So obviously, understanding that small piece of information, you can understand that Darrell Henderson was a decent college prospect coming out of Memphis. We can also say he's only 23 years old. He's not that far removed from this college prospect profile, where he had a 31.6 BMI, obviously clearing that threshold. He had a 4.49 40-yard dash. You really like to see that speed. The one thing that he did not have was the college target share that should translate over to usage in the receiving game at the NFL level. He was only 7%. And if you check out our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide over there on Patreon, you will see that we actually have a minimum threshold based on our historical research of 8.5%. So he doesn't hit that. Obviously not a player you're expecting to be a receiving running back, but he averaged 8.9 yards per carry in college in back-to-back seasons. Now, yards per carry, not a very good measure of how you should be evaluating these running backs, but it's something to look at nonetheless. And you look at his rookie season in 2019, he gives you literally nothing. Don't want to focus in on that. But let's remember that he was pretty damn good in 2020 when he had the opportunity. Now, if you look at the season, you're not necessarily going to see anything popping off the page. There, he had a little over 9 carries a game, a little over 1 reception, 52 total yards a game, and he had 6 total touchdowns through 15 games. But what you really like to see with Darrell Henderson is the small glimpses that we got of him being a starting running back. So we actually had some small glimpses. I mean, in week 3, he had 20 carries in a game, 120 total yards, a reception, and a touchdown to go along with it. In weeks 5 through 7, he actually averaged 16 touches a game. Now, obviously, this is due to Cam Akers not being healthy. Obviously, this is due to the fact that Cam Akers was not in the game plan. We can all understand. I mean, just look at his price. There's a reason Darrell Henderson is almost free in fantasy football right now. It's because Cam Akers is 100% the starting running back on this team. It's not even the situation like we just talked about with A.J. Dillon, where you could potentially start A.J. Dillon in the case where Aaron Jones was still healthy. I mean, you're not going to get that luxury with Darrell Henderson. With Henderson, he is just a pure handcuff running back. But I mean, we go through and we remember that workload. And I want to point out that Malcolm Brown was just a thorn in the side of Darrell Henderson. I mean, Malcolm Brown before week 9 was averaging 9.5 carries a game. He was averaging 2.5 targets a game as well. And he had 3 total touchdowns in that 8-week stretch. So that really took away so much value from what you could have had with Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson, in those weeks where you did not have Cam Akers, was actually a running back 2 in fantasy, which is completely fine to see. But what you're looking at is you're looking at a depth chart right now in LA that has Cam Akers at number 1, Darrell Henderson at 2, and then at 3, very similar to what you're seeing in Green Bay. I mean, there's literally not another running back on this depth chart that was drafted before round 7. It is literally nothing, just replacement level Jag players. So this tells us that if you did see a Cam Akers injury, that workload that we already saw Darrell Henderson thrive with last season is going to grow even larger. And that is going to unlock the ceiling for Darrell Henderson to be a high-end running back 2, low-end running back 1 in fantasy as a premium handcuff. And what you love about Darrell Henderson is in fantasy drafts right now, I mean, he is going very close to Latavius Murray, Alexander Madison, and running backs like that in startup drafts. But with Darrell Henderson, he was drafted in that 2019 NFL draft class. So you're actually in a situation where you're going to have this handcuff running back for seasons. So you are going to be able to get some starts out of him over the next 3 years as he is tied to that rookie deal. So both A.J. Dillon and Darrell Henderson, I understand they're not sexy buys right now because you don't necessarily know when you are going to get to start them this upcoming season. But what matters is the ceiling. And both running backs have prospect profiles. Both running backs are in current situations where if something happened to the starter ahead of them, they could win your league. And they're also young enough running backs where you're going to be having them in this situation for a while now. It's not like you draft Latavius Murray and then, well, 12 months from now, looks like that spot is just completely dead. No, 12 months from now, with both A.J. Dillon and Darrell Henderson, you'll be in a situation where you go, hey, let's run it back. Let's see if we can get 4 more running back 1 weeks out of these guys and just plug them in our flex spot when they do jump up into that opportunity. But thank you, my dudes. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. Of course, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton, and I'll see y'all with the video tomorrow. Thank you to everybody supporting the show. We got some new members of the flock in Robert, Caden, Matt, Robbie, Dan, John, Ziggy, Blake, Oliver, and Devin. Thank you, my dudes.